Hi, welcome to the Cyber Thoughts podcast, where we explore the ecosystem of cybersecurity through leaders in the field. Today, it's my great pleasure to welcome Jeremy Vaughan, the founder of Start Left Security and one of our companies. Jeremy, great to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Jeremy Vaughan, CEO, co-founder, Star Left Security. Happy to be here. Happy to share my story, and super proud to be part of the Political portfolio.
Well, thanks for saying that. So let's start with the origin story. How did you get into cybersecurity? Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Like what first got you involved?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So it's been a journey. I'll just say it that way. I'll say that I started in finance, and the recession hit, and smartphones came out. And me and a couple buddies from college, I was the business guy. They were the engineers. We're like, let's get into software, build a business, things like that. And so, after two successful services companies in software engineering, in the second one, we really started to differentiate ourselves by doing DevOps, CI/CD, delivering code faster, and then we started applying security into that. And so we're sitting here delivering high quality, super secure software to our CTOs and CIO champions, and they're like, "What are you guys doing? Like, you guys are delivering way faster than everybody else." So we showed them what we were doing, what we were monitoring, how we were doing this thing. And they're like, "You have a SaaS opportunity here. Like, go commercialize this thing." And of course, you're sitting there like, do I want to start over? The starting over is really hard. You got to create all these new case studies. When before we had all the case studies, people were like, "Hey, who do you do business with? Who's your logos? Blah blah blah." And we could easily call these people up and be like, "Hey, talk good about us, right?" So the origin story there becomes of what kicked me in the ass to start over, right? And so, if you say anything about me online, I'm very passionate about this. In fact, I have a video out there we'll put in the comments or however way we share it in the podcast. But what kicked me in the butt was my daughter is a type 1 diabetic, and we use monitoring devices that report to the mobile phone, mobile applications. And what had happened was overnight we used to not sleep and we had to check her every 1 to 2 hours. So we joke we didn't sleep for like 5 years, right? And so we got this device. It allowed us to sleep for the first time in several years. So we began to
How old
trust.
was she at this time?
She was well, when we first got the device, it was about 5 6 years old. Um and the story that I'm talking about, this was when she was about eight and a half. Yeah, right about eight and a half. And 2018, 19, I would say. Um, and we trust this device. And if you know about diabetes, if you go into a low blood sugar, that's potential seizures and life threatening, right? And so overnight, this happened. She was a 47 blood sugar for 3 hours, and the device never notified us. My daughter got up. We call her juicing herself. You hear about diabetes, like taking sugar, right, to pump up their blood sugars again. She did that. She woke us up. Obviously, like we're fired up. Like, what happened? And I just did a quick research on the Google store and the iPhone iOS store, and this particular medical device company did not update their mobile application for 2.5 years. And so what that means is the OS, we're getting these updates on our phone. Update your software, right? And so the OS changes, but the mobile application is not staying current with the OS, right? And so in the world of software engineering, that's called code rot or software decay, right? I mean, and just what it means, right? It's very obvious what it means from there. So in security, that shows up on the OWASP top 10 as outdated components, right? And so we monitor for those things in our software, and that was the thing that made me extremely passionate. So at first it was, hey, we're solving a problem for ourselves that we have, but the second thing was this happened to me and my family, and that was like the trigger point that made me click of like, how does software actually impact consumers, patients, and like how life threatening it could be, how detrimental it could be to somebody's life and business. And so that's what really fueled me. And I picked my big boy boots up and started executing and getting this thing off the ground. And that was the origin story.
Cool. So we've jumped into Start Left. Let's go down that path, and then I'm going to pull in some of your other history. But like, tell me a little bit about, you started Start Left. What do you do today? Where'd you start? Kind of give me the story of a startup.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, man. This startup has been very hard to get off the ground. And it is nothing to do with the technology. It has everything to do with finding the right people, getting people to believe in you. And I didn't set out to be a CEO. I just didn't. Like, that wasn't like my aspiration. I was trying to solve a problem. Today, 5 years later, I know being a CEO has been my destiny, right? So like I really love it. I do well at it. I know what I'm doing. I didn't really realize I'm that good at business until now, right? And so but I give you that background because the original CEO that I found to help lead this organization, because originally I was the product owner. Um, he actually passed away early on in our journey, right? And so I don't even think I told you this, because
Mhm.
that's a deeply personal story. But he had a heart attack at Disney World, and and that was part of the original story of picking my big boy boots up. Like, somebody has to do this, and I just took the reins and started running. And so that was couple years ago, 2019, and it scared me, right? It scared me to take the reins and let's move this thing along. But yeah, launched the company, and raised some angel investment. It was serendipitous that I met a gentleman, who was an investor that became my angel investor, and he just like, hey, I believe in you, let's go. And so he fueled the first round, and we started executing, and we just started building the team. And it's a couple years later. um, you know I'll be honest, like, raising capital was hard. We literally launched right at the freaking beginning of COVID. And at that time, we were in a insurance accelerator getting exposed to um, Hartford, Beasley, like Chubb, like all these big insurance companies, right? And like, all of a sudden COVID hits and they're like, we're gonna have to turn this down, right? Like, in the heart in the accelerator just shut down. And all the deals that we had going literally gone. They're like, we have to make everybody virtual, and so that's an unexpected expense. So we don't have budget for you anymore. So I then took a step back and said, okay, if this is going to be successful, how can we innovate in a way that nobody else is doing? And since nobody's really buying right now, it gave us the opportunity to figure out the channel. And when you do channel, it takes, everybody says 12 to 18 months to get things rolling. Well, if nobody's buying anyways, let's talk to the channel. Let's educate people. Let's train people. Let's become friends with their sales folks. And so that's what I did. And so all the way through COVID, um, it was, I didn't quit working. I didn't quit selling. I was educating. And frankly, the market had to catch up. Like, we're still a little bit emerging, right? We're emerging technology. So I always said 2024, 2025 is going to be the years that this becomes an adoption curve. And so working on the channel, 2022 just like hit us. All of a sudden, the channel started throwing us business. We started closing deals. And mind you, I haven't raised money other than the angel, right? And so um, I wanted to raise money. I wanted to figure out sales. I wanted to figure out channel. And I can see a lot of companies struggling when they raise way too much money too early and they haven't figured out how to sell their damn tech. So we figured that out. And then I raised money, right? And so we raised a seed round last June, and we hired a team. Like, we're really kicking and going now, and it's becoming a very exciting ride.
Cool. So let's go into the product for a little bit. What does it do? What's the problem you're solving, and how do you work with your customers?
Yeah, so Start Left is really the methodology, right? Like, I don't know why it wasn't bought previous to us finding it, because
Great name.
the whole industry is marketing for us. It's awesome. So even our partners, they write blog posts on Start Left, but it's not about us. It's about the methodology, right? And so the way that we see it, if you hear my background, is I came from software engineering. There's this whole like shift left mentality going on, which is essentially causing turmoil in the organization, tool churn. We're starting to see tool churn over the last that has happened over the last couple of years, that people are like, hey, the shift left mindset didn't solve the actual problem. So what is solving the right problem, which is actually start security at the start. Like, it's not that like mind shattering, right? And so what this requires is a whole paradigm shift of how do we empower our developers to become security experts, and how do we do it in the flow of their work so that it's not disruptive, right? And so how do you do that is, and even Gartner says this, the future is about platforms, not tools, right? And what that means is there's a whole lot of cybersecurity tools, security tools scattered throughout the organization, and it's just adding to the attack surface. It's adding to disrupt everybody, and it's all these silos, so nobody knows how to work together. And so what a platform means, and what we're doing is we have our own tools in one place, right? And if we have other things that we need to integrate with, like the other commercial tools, we can integrate with it, right? And so it doesn't matter to us if you use our tools or your existing tools. But the point is like, you need all of this stuff aggregated, number one, but correlated into context. And so our differentiation is what we call product focused DevOps. And what that means is we're correlating all of this data from all of these tools, and it's a lot of data to crunch. So you need an analytics platform. But what this does is providing visibility, control, and accountability, and developer empowerment all the way down to every single product team. What you can do with that finally is manage an actual security program, right? And so if you don't have visibility and control, you don't know what's going on, you cannot manage the performance of your people, who are actually the ones that are supposed to be doing the security work. The tools aren't going to do the work. The people do the work, right? And so how do we empower people? How do you manage people? How do you mentor and coach people? And then the people drive the success of your program. And that's what we're focused on in one platform.
Awesome. So, you've had quite a journey from, starting before COVID to today. How has your vision changed since the original launch?
um, it's awesome. And like, as I look at the landscape, the vision that we started with, I would say 8 years ago, is exactly where I would say competitors are today. Again, 8 years ago. So the vision has, and what nobody's, and I keep on, I'll drive it and hammer it home. People, 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 people. It's not about tools. So the vision has changed to basically bake in all of these existing capabilities in one place, but focus on the people. And what we've done is, if you look at our talent on our team, it looks much different than your traditional cybersecurity or security firm. Everybody else looks and acts the exact same way. They communicate in marketing really boring the exact same way. They're not innovating. And so my past is, I'm an innovator, like I'm a product innovator. So how do we disrupt this space focused on people? Our technical creative director, we took from Activision. And so he was part of Spider-Man, Call of Duty. What that means is we're gamifying this process. We are changing the incentivization to get people involved, right? And so what that means is we've baked a whole scoring and awards system into our platform, and we have a lot of innovation that's going to come from that in the future that completely disrupts the space. And what this is going to be focused on is, how do we enable people to be successful in their current companies, but then how can they use that data, those awards, to enhance their career, all the way through the career path. And so nobody's really focused on that. And so not only are we focused on trying to help companies be more secure, we're also helping people become experts and helping them be better in their career path. And that's I would say a vision that nobody else is expressing.
Very cool. All right, so let's broaden the aperture a bit. 2024, we see budgets a little bit down for CISOs, right? So the world's changing a little bit, but where do you see the market generally going? With respect to the entire space, not just where you play, but everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
what do you see?
I mean, I see it as the same concept as we building a platform is happening in the marketplace, meaning there's a lot of consolidation happening, and the big boys are starting to realize that a platform play is the right play, right? And so I don't know how many companies Sneak has bought in the last like 2 months, but like I get alerts on that like every other day. Oh, they bought this, they bought that. Palo Alto, like all these guys are buying a crap ton of companies. And so we're seeing consolidation. What you're seeing is they're realizing that their legacy, they're traditional, and they need to innovate. And how do they innovate? They buy startups, right? And so but what tends to happen is they're recreating the same issues over and over again, which is a whole bunch of tools and disconnected stuff that isn't actually solving the problem. We had enough foresight to focus on the platform play from the beginning, but that's what's happening now is consolidation, um, and more of these companies moving towards a platform and solving it from a more what I call a systematic approach, which is a more well thought out, program centric, people centric play. And so we're seeing all that all over the market. I'm sure you're seeing it as well. Yeah.
So I took a perusal of your LinkedIn, and it looks like you start off way back when on the investing side of the house. Um, so why don't you talk a little bit about that, and then we'll drive using that. What did being an investor early on teach you about startups? What did you have right, and then what surprised you?
Yeah, it was funny. So I was in investment banking when I first got out of college. So that kind of gave me the finance chops, and really like the analytical chops. Then in one of my previous firms, we came up with this idea to build a accelerated program and invest in a couple like five startups that through our own profit, and we really surrounded them, the business leaders, and built their products. But it taught us how to do um, the Steve Blank way, right? The lean startup. And so while you can read something, right? And so people learn by doing, right? Like you can't really read something and be like, oh, I know how to do that now, right? And so not only did we get experience building our own company, right, as a services company, we started getting experience by helping five startups that basically lived with us in our office, right? And we created those collisions. We basically we learned how to do economic development. We learned how to um, surround these startups with resources and help them get into sales opportunities and learn like basically how do you take that feedback from those customers and build it into your product, right? And so it was like literally getting your MBA in like 6 months because you're literally working with six companies, like five startups that we invested in, our own company, and we're just like it was just a really fun time, right? But I would say we also learned uh, a lot of the things not to do, right? And so they were failures. A lot of them were failures. I think there's two of them that are alive still today.
Where they
Maybe I
said
take that
live
back.
right. That's not bad.
I think one of them is alive today.
Ah,
um, and so and it's you know what it is people just get burnt out. Like I don't really think that people understand how hard it is to execute and get this stuff done, right? It is literally like pushing a boulder up a hill. You get over a little hill and then you got to keep on pushing, right? And so I think a lot of people just give up. And like it's sad because you're like, man, if you just did it a little bit more, you were like so close to getting that first big sale, but like people just like give up. And I really don't think people understand like how important sales is, how important positioning, marketing is, and like distribution. And once you kind of figure all that stuff out, it becomes easier, but it's a lot of work to get there. Because again, you're a startup. Nobody knows you. Nobody trusts you. You have to be very charismatic and you have to be authentic. You have to be genuine. You have to live up to your promises. And I think a lot of people give up like way too soon. And it's sad, but that was a lot of failures that taught us a lot of good things. Yeah.
and now that you're in the seat, what was the biggest surprise? Right, you thought you knew it all. You'd seen everyone else do it. What surprised you?
It's funny, right? So I'm surprised of how fun it has been to find like and grow a team, and how hard it is to get like every part of the operations like working together, creating that shared vision, creating that shared understanding, getting everybody working towards a common goal. And it's been um truly amazing to I would say really kind of think differently about the type of people you want in your organization. And like when you get those, you never know how it's going to go when people come together, but like when now, like I was like, man, the people that we brought in, we're all executing, everybody's working really well together, and it's just a really fun ride because everybody's just, we trust each other. And so I really enjoy what we are doing and what we're creating together.
Cool. All right. So as we come towards the end here, for those people new to InfoSec, you didn't start in InfoSec. You got into it, via learning and via starting something. What resources do you love in InfoSec? How did you get the lay of the land, given that you weren't, native to it?
So it'll relate it just to what I just said about startups and Steve Blank and things, right? Um, I think, and if anybody gets anything about this podcast, is it's people, man. I think people are a lot of times scared to get out from behind their desk and go talk to other people. So um, you learn a lot, right, from other people. Like you're surrounded in your organization, or you go to networking events. You engulf yourself into wherever you're trying to go, whatever you're passionate about, and you learn it, right? And then when you're talking to people, you want to talk to the thought leaders, you want to talk to experts, you ask them pointed questions like, hey, what do you think on this topic? How do I learn more about that topic? Where did you get your advice or your learnings from that topic? And so, yeah, it took me, I'm not going to say I was an expert in cyber. I became an expert in product security, cloud security, over 8 years, right? But I'm still not a practitioner. I can fake people out that I know like how to do all the way down to code, but I can't. But to me though, I know when people's blowing smoke at me, and I know when they know what they're talking about now. And so
That's so
it's
important.
just a lot of years of talking to people, doing research, reading, and I didn't go to school for it. I proactively got my butt out of the seat, talked to people, and then researched, right, and read and took courses. And and you even hear about it. Engineers can go, become an engineer or designer or whatever in a couple weeks if they go take these online courses. Did the same thing, right?
So last two rapid fire, and I'm going to reverse the order. I normally do the opposite order. But what's your favorite way to learn? What's your favorite information medium?
South Park. and and the Simpsons, man. Like they give us the predictions. They're always right. It's
All right, cartoons. I like
Yeah,
it.
but I'll say it this way, and she's gonna hate me for saying this because we're gonna do a little plug in there. But our chief growth officer, Stephanie Todd, um, goes down rabbit holes of understanding like economics, geopolitical risks, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And she's like, "Hey, Jeremy, this is what's going on. You need to go read this. Go read this. I found this. Blah blah." So like, she's my little. She goes out there and she finds stuff for me to read. It's awesome. Like, so I don't have to pay attention all the time. And she like distills the information and what I need to read really quickly. She's gonna hate that I put her on the spot there.
An information Sherpa. I love it.
Exactly.
Last but not least, what's your favorite book?
I'm going to say three things here. And you heard me say shared vision, shared understanding, common goals earlier. Peter Senge, The Fifth Element. I was forced to read it by my former business partner. It was very dry, but it was really, really good. It's very dense, but it took me a long time to get through it. But once you get through it, it's like this taught me a lot of things about business and a lot of things about how to be a leader. And I think that's a really good book on how to lead organizations and initiatives. I'll also say 0 to 1, Peter Thiel, how to distribute, run a software business and try to scale it quickly. Really good, always sticks around for me. And then I would say, being that we're on a cyber podcast, and I'm talking about modern software development. If security people have not read Gene Kim's series on DevOps, Phoenix projects, all that kind of stuff, like those things are how you need to learn how to work with developers. And so not only did I go learn cyber, right? I worked with product development for this whole entire time. Security people need to do the same thing, right? So like learn how to speak other people's languages and how they're delivering value so you can actually work better together.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to get the link to that and put that in the notes because that's one I don't know. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Phoenix
Um,
I can't remember all of them. I have all the books. They came out several years ago.
Very cool. Any plugs you want to add before we wrap it up?
I would say, yeah, a couple. Thank you for Political. Believing in us and investing us. It's VCs like you, Gula, and a couple of other VCs that are invested in us that see the future, believe in our vision, and we're thankful for all that support. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't plug in Start Left Security. We're a company on a mission right now, and we're coming out of stealth. And if you hear my story, we're here to change the industry. We want to make software secure so it can protect consumers, patients, and so the world, like our nation, right? And so I don't know if anybody's seen that Netflix movie that's on Netflix right now, but it's scary. It's about cybersecurity and shutting down our grid and water supply, food supply. It's scary, man. And all of this is unsecured software, right? And so we need to secure these things. We need to be proactively doing these things to protect our nation, to protect our consumers, to protect our patients. And that's what I'm trying to do. And we're here to work with companies through every stage of their journey. And I'll say this, and you can hold me accountable to this. I think I want to say we will be starting a podcast as well.
Oh,
And
excellent.
it's going to be a different podcast. It's not going to be focused on security. It's going to be more focused on software, the business of software, the journey of the software leader, right? And so that's what else we're doing. It's going to be different, and it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Well, if you've got one out by the time this drops, we'll put that in the notes as well. Listen,
Awesome.
you've got a great personal story. It's obvious why you're passionate about this space. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining me today, Jeremy.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.